In this video, I will give you the perfect guide to create a high ticket info product all from scratch. So even if you have no idea what high ticket info is, or if you're already in the coaching business, the info product business, and you're kind of creating offers, but you don't really know what actually makes a good product, this is going to be the perfect video for you. Now, I'm going to break down everything in simple terms over here on my computer, but I want to cover a few foundations first before we actually jump into making a high ticket info product and really what you need. It all kind of depends on the niche, but obviously we will cover a couple of things you guys need to know and you need to have regardless of whatever niche you're in. So hopefully this all makes sense. I'm going to keep this very simple and straightforward for you guys. So first of all, why is this even important? And the main reason why we need to care about this in the first place is because if you guys know, in the info industry nowadays, you see a lot of people talking about scammers and people that don't really fulfill the service like they're supposed to. So the info business and like the info space just gets a bad reputation overall. And that's obviously not good for all of us that are in info. Now, me, I've personally scaled an info product in 3 different niches, as well as scaled multiple of your favorite influencers to 6 and 7 figures. So I kind of know what differentiates a good info product from a bad one, right? And what you usually see with a lot of these bad info products is basically just the aesthetic is not good. So like the course can even be good, but it just aesthetically doesn't look good. So people think it's shady and it's scammy, and that's not something that we want. So that's obviously also very important. But also when it comes to a lot of the guys that make bad info products is really just because they don't deliver the service like they're supposed to and they're not getting the client's results, so they lack trust. And this is kind of why this is important in the first place, because nowadays in 2025 with info, trust is the most important thing that we have if we actually want to make an info product and scale our info high ticket info business. The reason why is because all of these quote unquote scammers and the guys that have kind of given us a bad rep have turned the trust down for pretty much everybody in the space. And that's not good. But it's also, on the counter side of things, it's also a good thing because this means that we can do this properly. And this is really going to set us apart. Because if you know how to properly do it, then you're the guy that people actually trust, and you're going to have the info product that people will actually buy. Hopefully that makes sense. So the reason why it's important is because we need to gain our trust. If you don't know how to do this correctly, and if you don't make a proper info product from the get-go, you're not going to have the trust and you're not going to set yourself apart. Bummer, right? So to do that and to make a quality info product, we need to have our foundation in place. Now, what uh, kind of entails with the foundation? What entails with the foundation is 3 main things. I'm going to talk about them, but you need to, first of all, identify your ICP. Your ICP is basically your ideal client profile. So just identify your ideal client and your ideal customer and be as specific as you possibly can be. This is going to help you out a ton. And the reason why is, first of all, if you start marketing to the wrong person, you're not going to make any sales and you're going to ruin everything for your ICP or your ideal client as well. You see how that kind of goes hand in hand? We don't want that, because if we just have the proper ideal, your proper ICP from the get go, you can directly market to them and it's going to be perfect for them. Now, what a lot of people are scared about here is that they get too niche. People are way too scared about getting too niche and too specific. Now, obviously, we can't go into too deep detail where we just like barely have any customers, because that's going to be kind of hard. But what we want to do is we want to be able to identify our ideal customer as specifically as we can, because then it's going to be way easier for us to market to them, but also not be as like too specific so we like barely have anybody. So a great example of this is, essentially, maybe you've even heard the example a couple of different times, but you have the fitness coaches, right? And like fitness is such an easy niche to give examples on, so I'm just going to use it. But you see everybody kind of trying to market themselves as just like a weight loss coach or fitness coach, build muscle, shit like that, right? But instead of just being a weight loss coach, try to identify it even a little bit deeper. So who are you helping lose weight? Is it kids? Is it middle-aged men? Like trying to get a little bit more detail in there because you still have a large group of people just like in the lose weight. There's a bunch of people that want to lose weight, right? So you can go a little bit niche into it. But if you go as deep as being like, okay, I help men that work at Walmart that are only between the age of 18 and 20, it's you see how that's kind of like way too specific, right? So we don't want to go there, but try to be as specific as possible. It's going to make your life 10 times easier. The reason why it makes your life easier is because once you have your ICP, you can start finding problems within that ICP. So what I mean by this is that you need to find your ideal client, and then once you find your ideal client, you're going to think to yourself, okay, why is this my ideal client? Well, it is my ideal client because he has this, that, and a third problem, right? So he has these problems. Try to get specific in those problems obviously need to be solved. So then it's going to be about curating the offer around how can we solve these problems that we've just found, right? So not only be specific with your ideal customer, but be specific with the problems that they have as well. Once you kind of see these problems, it's going to be way easier for you to make this offer and curate this info product around the problem that you're solving. Okay. So that's going to be the second thing. Then your product needs to genuinely solve the issue as well. I can't stress this enough. It's like we talked about. The reason why we've lost so much trust in the info space, it's not because it doesn't work, because it's probably the best business model that you can run in 2025 nowadays, but it is because we're losing trust. And why are we losing trust? Because people don't genuinely solve the issues. So when you find these problems, you need to make an offer that can genuinely solve this issue and make sure that it's actually proven to be solved as well. Make sense? Specific client, specific problem, make sure it's a specific solution. That's the three specifics, if you want to put it that way. So when you understand this, it's going to be again way easier to make this offer and this info product for your person. So kind of go find your notebook, start writing, and look at who's your ideal client, solve the specific problem, and make an offer around it. Now, once you've done that, you need to obviously go in and start making this offer. So, how are we going to make this offer? Well, we want to make sure we have a results driven outcome, right? Because that's what's actually the whole point of info. It's to give information so you can take the person from point A to point B. If we're just giving out information for no reason, then people would never even buy it, right? So, transformation over information. Don't get this wrong, because I see a lot of people, when I tell people this, they only focus on the transformation and then they forget to even give information in the first place, right? Then they're never going to get the transformation. So, information is still very important, but essentially, our whole point here is to make sure we can actually get them a result. So, how do we actually get them the results? Well, it's not really that hard. It's obviously, again, specific to each niche and whatnot. Something works better than something else in different niches. But overall, I want you to think about a couple things. What helps a person transform? Essentially, what helps a guy go from where he is to where he wants to be, right? How do we bridge this gap? How do we cross this bridge? That's the whole point of our info product. So to do this, we need to ask ourselves a couple questions. First thing is going to be, what helps them transform? Well, what helps them transform is, first of all, new ways of doing. Okay? What I mean by new ways of doing is, if a person is overweight and he wants to lose weight, he has to do something different than what he's doing right now to be able to get here, right? And I see people kind of get this a little bit wrong, right? Because we want to make this gap, this bridging of the gap, as easy for them as possible. So when I say new ways of doing, it doesn't mean they have to change their whole lifestyle or they have to do all this, because then it's just going to be way too hard for them to even get the results and do the work in the first place, right? Obviously, it shouldn't be easy, but they need to have some sort of new way and new thinking, something new that they're doing that's going to help them get to where they want to be. So, for instance, I don't overcomplicate this, and I can give you a great example. Let's just say you have a course, right? A new way of doing is essentially going to be to start, because this is something they're not doing, right? So you're going to start watching the course, and then you're going to start implementing everything that we teach in this course, just as an example, right? That's a new way of doing, just to give you guys the perfect example of not overcomplicating. Now, that can also sometimes be too simple. So you can give specific steps and specific actions for your client that they can do different things for them to be able to get to point B, right? So they're overweight. You give them some specific instructions of new ways of doing things, new exercises, new ways to lose weight, whatever, something that they're not doing. You give them actionable steps that they can do so they will eventually get to point B. Very important. Otherwise, it's going to be a hard sell because they're not doing anything. They're basically just doing what they're doing already. Not good enough, right? So make sure you have that. Next thing is going to be accountability. This can be done in different ways. You have the accountability of a community, like-minded individuals holding them accountable, but also keeping them accountable yourself is also very key, regardless of whatever niche you're in, or if you're a one-on-one coach, right? You want to make sure you hold your guys accountable, because that's going to make sure they stay on track. So if you can have accountability inside of your offer, you're already kind of halfway there. You can just, even if they're not doing what they're supposed to doing, you're holding them accountable along the way and being like, yo, what the fuck? Why aren't you doing what you're supposed to do? I'm like, yeah, fuck you, you're right. So then, even if they don't get the results, they know why they didn't get the results. Why? Because they didn't put the work in them themselves. It wasn't because of you, it was because of them. So, if that's the case, it's not about your offer, it's about them just not wanting it bad enough, right? So, hold them accountable every single step of the way, especially in the beginning stages, dude. Like, if you barely have anybody and you have never made an info product or anything like that, start putting accountability in as soon as possible. Next thing is also going to be a clear goal. These three are the main things, because if they don't have a clear goal, then what is the transformation? There is no transformation without a goal, right? So essentially, what we're doing is we're just talking about transformation and then breaking this down into smaller bite sized pieces, right? What does it take to get a transformation? Well, it gets a new way of doing things with accountability and a clear goal in sight. That's really all it comes down to, right? So, a clear goal is also very important for every single individual, that you need to kind of have a clear goal with your info product, since this is what people are going to see. They're going to be like, okay, this is the goal with this whole info product. I want to purchase this, right? So make sure you have a clear goal in mind. So whenever you're on a sales call, by the way, just make sure you watch out for these three and kind of try to pinpoint these, ask them in the sales calls or ask questions about them in the sales call to make sure you can actually genuinely help. Because we don't want to sell something to somebody that we can help, right? If that's the case, then again, we're losing trust. That's what a lot of people do. So make sure you're not just getting in everybody, get in the people you can actually help. Okay. So with that being said, now let's start making a info offer from scratch with you guys, so I can actually walk you guys through an example of different things that we would, let's just say, need, right? So let's start off. A new way of doing things, right? So for instance, we can use the, like, what should you include in your info product, right? Let's just start off with the first thing. And what I like to put in as the first thing is something that just like sets you apart from the rest, a new way of doing things, right? So a new way of doing. For us, what is this going to be? Let's just use an example of the niche I'm in. How to make a high ticket info offer, right? A new way of doing things. If people have no idea what high ticket info is, we obviously need to have specific actions that people can apply to make a high ticket info product and start running their own high ticket info business, excuse me, right? So what actions can we do as a new way of doing something that people aren't doing already? Well, first thing can be actually starting to post content, right? Because content is going to give you leads, which in return will give you clients. So let's just say we curate an info product around how to like how let's just put it like this: how to run an info product. Let's just say this is the offer as an example, so it makes sense for you guys, right? So the first thing is going to be posting content, like I said. So inside of the product, we want to teach people. Let's just say we have a course which goes over all knowledge about high ticket info. This is just an example. I'm not going to delete this. So you guys course. And then what sets us apart is that we're going to have a course. And then we're, instead of just like having a random ass course, we're going to have with actionable steps every step of the way. So we want to emphasize now that we want them to like take action out of every single step, right? That's going to be the first one. Second thing we can add, which is going to help us with, let's just see if we can do this, which is going to help us with accountability, is going to be coaching, right? When you're doing some sort of info product, I highly recommend that you have some sort of coaching in place and not just like self-taught course and whatever, but actually have coaching. So we can have both group coaching, um, group coaching, one-on-one coaching as well, right? Whatever fits your niche, whatever fits your thing best. So in this case, we're going to be coaching guys on how to run an info product, right? So let's just be specific on the coaching. We can just do group coaching with the guys, and then everybody gets a one-on-one once a month, something simple like that, right? So this way we can just ensure that they're actually taking the actionable steps from the course, and then we're also coaching them in the group every single time, just giving them more value. And on the one-on-one, we can really hold them accountable, right? That's going to be super key. The third thing is we just stack that accountability with a community. So this way, the guys, I wrote community wrong, I think, but this way we can hold people accountable. Um, yeah, let's just put it like this: each other. So everybody holds each other accountable, which is super super key. And now that we have this, we kind of have three key pieces to the info product. Now, from here, you can really just add a little bit of cool things that you feel like, again, kind of sets you apart, or things that eventually just like gives you a clear goal as well, right? So, as an example, if we can actually get this to work normally right here, there you go. As an example, we can add something that, like I said, sets us apart, something that has a clear goal in mind, and something that will help the person go from point A to the clear goal, which should be point B, right? So since we're using this info product, I guess, space, let me just think on the fly. We can add something like, let's just do this. We can be a little bit different and do something for them, right? So we can, let's just say, we set up the funnel for each individual. So this really, really sets you apart because you jump on, let's just say, one-on-one calls, or you just do that. And then every individual, once they're ready to actually run their offer, you can set up the funnel for them. So they don't have to run the funnel. They don't have to do any of that BS. You set up the funnel for them. So this really sets you apart. It shows your authority, and it also keeps that clear goal in mind, because now when you're setting up the funnel, what does the funnel lead to? Well, it leads to sales calls, which is going to lead to actionable steps being taken to get to the clear goal. Because once the funnel is up and running, like you know what's inside, and this inside is actually getting the sale and starting to run a high ticket info offer, if that were to be the goal, right? So this is just an example of how you can set this up. Now, the way you set this up is you can set it up through something called WAP. You have a bunch of different ways of setting this up. You can use WAP. You can use, I like using Fanbasis as a payment processor, especially. So there's different ways of doing this, but I recommend you use WAP because it's free and it also sets everything up very smoothly and easily for you. It looks clean, aesthetically pleasing, and whatnot. So that's what I recommend. If you guys want a video on specifically how I would set up my community on WAP, feel free to leave a comment down below and I can definitely make that. If you need help with anything else, I'll leave my Instagram down below. Just send me a message. I'm happy to help out with whatever. I'm not going to charge anything. I'm literally just giving out free sauce. I've helped way too many guys behind the scenes. So I kind of feel like it's only about time that I actually share some knowledge on YouTube as well. So hope you guys liked the video. If you found this helpful, please just like follow me on Instagram, follow the channel, whatever. I'm gonna drop plenty of sauce. You guys are gonna see everything. So it's gonna be fire. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.